On today's show, I'm back, and that means the Mavs can win again. Luka Doncic carried the Dallas Mavericks. How did he do it? And how did Josh Green step up to help the Mavericks beat the Warriors? We'll break all that down and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day when we let it ride.
Let it ride, let it ride.
Shout out to the guy at the arena tonight that said, hey, make sure you let it ride. He called it with like 4 minutes to go in the game. I was like, they haven't even won yet. There was like 10 more insane things that had to happen before I could let it ride. But here we are, letting it ride. We are free and available on all podcast platforms. You can listen to us on Apple, Spotify, Odyssey, all that. But the best way to help us grow the show is to comment on YouTube anyway, anything below. Let me know. Give me one reason the Mavs won this game. There's a lot. There's a lot of reasons they could have lost, but there's a lot of reasons they could have won. Today's episode is brought to you by Sweatblock. If you or someone you love is experiencing embarrassing sweater odor, try Sweatblock. Save 20% with promo code LOCKEDON at sweatblock.com. Also available on Amazon. And joining me, as always, co-host, writer, contributor at Mavs.com. The Let It Ride ridiculousness. The One More Thing King. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Just let this ride for a moment.
I'm letting it.
Good moment. We haven't got to let it ride for a while.
Didn't really foul pool that bad. Steph traveled in the last play and got mad.
I was honestly kind of bummed a little bit ago because I've been without power. So if you live in like, I'm like, we were both at the game tonight. It's a great game in the arena, playoff feel to it.
Incredible atmosphere.
In the post-game presser, asking Jason Kidd some questions. Shout out to a new drop, hopefully in the future.
Oh yeah, it's coming.
And then I get home, and the whole neighborhood I live in here in Dallas has no power.
None.
And for like 45 minutes, Nick texts me, "Hey, what are you doing? Is it back?"
You sent me a video of your neighborhood, and it was like, honestly, it was like you're in the middle of the woods. Like,
yeah,
just no light, no light anywhere.
And and then I texted him. I was like, I'm just sitting here eating a peanut butter and jelly in the dark. So waiting for this. And now it's back. And that means I can be on this post-game pod, baby, because the Mavs won. One of the best wins of the year.
A Dallas Mavericks win. We're going to break it all down. Let's start with Luka Doncic. I mean, this guy. He can... Okay.
Does he get his teammates involved?
He may not.
Just kidding, guys.
He may not be the best player in the NBA. Like, you can make an argument about Giannis, right? Like, I don't know if you can make many, but there is not a player in the NBA that can carry a team like Luka can right now. None. There's no other player like Giannis, KD, all these guys. There's no one in the NBA that can carry a team. Steph. There's no one in the NBA that can carry a team like Luka Doncic can right now. 41 points, 12 boards, 12 assists, getting his teammates involved. And afterwards, he was asked, obviously he's always asked about stats, and he's been making jokes about it this year. And he's like, the one stat I do care about, though. What's the one stat I do care about? He had 4 steals, and he said, it should have been 5. It should have been 5. Luka was all over the place in this game.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of ironic that, not ironic, that's probably not the right word, that his defense was a huge point of this game, especially late.
Huge.
I think you see two guys that in this game tonight, in Luka and Steph, that they get a lot of recognition for what they do on the offensive side of the ball, but I think they're both underrated defenders. We've seen Steph's underrated defense on the biggest of stages in the finals and stuff, but even he had a couple like defensive possessions on Luka tonight, even in the second half, that I was like, ooh, that's a really good defense by Steph right there. He's just an underrated defender. Luka was underrated too. playing defense tonight. Had a great couple stops, especially late. And yeah, man. I mean, you can't really, different, teammates were asked post game tonight about his 40-point triple doubles, and Jason Kidd joked that, it's just boring at this point.
You're boring me. It's boring.
Do more. Can we get a 50-point triple double? It's just
casual.
But he's just, he has some monster shots late. The pull up three, just that was kind of like a heat checkish three.
The steal on one end, and then the straight up transition pull up three that I think he said was a 2. Like, you hit that, and he hits that shot, and it rattles in, and he goes, I don't know why I did that. And I know why he did that. He did that right in front of Steph Curry so that we could do this. Oh my goodness. Insane. Like, just literally an insane game from him. He carried this team. Anybody else plays this game with this roster, they don't win that game. Right? I don't think anybody else in the NBA. The way that he can create offense out of nothing, the passes that he was throwing in this game tonight, he had
that pass to Josh Green was
2 passes to Josh Green that were just absolutely insane. How he has the timing and the touch on these passes to get in the lane and to chuck the ball with one hand through like 3 defenders where it looks like it snakes between the multiple defenders, gets right to where the shooter can get it and can put it up. And then Tim Hardaway had the point afterwards. He's like, the one good thing about these Luka triple doubles, that means we're making our shots, right? Like, it means we're actually making our threes, and they did in this game. That only shot 34% as a team, but Tim Hardaway made 5. Josh Green made 3. Davis Bertans made 2. Dorian made 1. Like, guys were actually hitting their threes, and so Luka got the triple double.
Josh joked after the game. He said, what's next? The 100-point game for Luka. He said,
I think he was serious about that. He's like, I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for the 100-point game. I'm waiting for it.
He said he'd like to see it. I thought it was fun for the.
Speaking of 40-point games, though, he tied Dirk Nowitzki for most 40-point games. They each have had 20 40-point games so far. Mark Aguirre has the record for the Mavs, actually. It's 22, but
not long.
That's insane. That record is going down like in 2 weeks.
It's funny how Warriors were kind of defending. They wanted Kuminga on the floor a lot against Luka.
He was good.
He played 25 minutes. I mean, yeah.
It's good for him. Like, he had some good moments in this game, I guess.
It's just I enjoy defenders who, try to pick up Luka full court and get up in his grill and are like really on top of Luka before the ball's even like passed in bounds. You're like, all right, you're really trying hard to like get in Luka's head or like really just be in his grill the whole time. And Luka, dropped a 40-point triple double on him. And it was just
give some credit to Wiggins too. Wiggins guarded him at the start too.
Yes. There's not many plays. We've had the blessing privilege of being able to watch Luka play in so many games in person. And, there's not many times now. Did you hear that?
Nope.
Oh, all right, cool. There's not many times now that some things are still coming back on in my house. So there's like beeping and all this stuff. But there's not too many plays now that happen that I look over. So Nick and I sat in different places in the arena, and because I still like to set up in the press box, Nick sits closer to the floor like a weirdo, and I just kidding.
Isaac sits like 1,000 feet in the air, and he calls me the weirdo.
I know that's true, but there's not too many plays that I look at Bobby and like we look at each other and we're like, what the crap. And the Luka underhanded one-hand pass to Josh Green in the corner was insane. One of those like, holy crap, what was that? That's insane. And then the other one was Josh Green's driving layup tonight that literally could have been, we're going to blast you to the sun if this doesn't go in. Whenever it's like a minute something to go. And he just takes it, driving in full confidence and just does this off-balance shot. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, it went in. let's just be fine.
Coming up, how did the Mavericks win this game? How did they pull this off? Because there are times when it did not feel like they were going to win this game. We'll talk about that. And Josh Green. Josh Green.
Aussie. I enjoyed that.
We'll talk about his contributions coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Sweatblock. If you or someone you know is potentially in an arena where you're wearing the opposing team's jersey and you are standing up constantly after your team scores a bucket and just flexing every time your team scores a bucket. No one around you is standing because they're fans of the home team, but you're fans of the away team and you're flexing. And anytime that something happens, you're waving bye to Spencer Dinwiddie getting ejected. And then every time Steph does something cool, you're putting your hands in the air and you're going, and you have embarrassing sweat stains. This is literally somebody that I saw at the arena tonight. If you have embarrassing sweat stains and you're wearing a Warriors jersey at the AAC, you need Sweatblock. You can get it, and it's just these wipes that you wipe the night before when your pits are dry, and you won't have embarrassing sweat stains for 7 days. 7 days, you don't have to deal with it. So Sweatblock gives you the confidence you want to wear, to give you the confidence to wear what you want, even if it's a Steph Curry jersey. If you or someone you love is experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, try Sweatblock. Save 20% with promo code LOCKEDON at sweatblock.com. Also available on Amazon. This guy I saw tonight, he could have used some Sweatblock. Promo code LOCKEDON, sweatblock.com. All right, Isaac Harris, how did the Dallas Mavericks win this game? It just was one of the most insane games that we've seen in a long time, I think. So they start with the starting. Let's start with the starting lineup. Jason Kidd did change the starting lineup, even though after the game he was asked about changing up the starting lineup, and he said, "Don't ask; it's a waste of time." I was like, "Okay, well, you did change it because Reggie Bullock was not out this game. He was available, and he did not start. They started Tim Hardaway Jr., and they started off like amazing. They started out 23-6 start at the beginning of this game through the first 8 minutes.
I was laughing though because I'm like, what's the Venn diagram of Mavs fandom that has been clamoring for Reggie to not start, but also they hate Tim, and they're like,
it's this here. I'll show
I don't know what's going on.
This is the Venn diagram. It's just a round circle.
Do I be excited about this, or why is Tim starting? And obviously I'm in the camp that I don't think it means everything in the world of who starts and who doesn't, because lineups change so much. We even seen 2 games ago that different lineups started the third quarter. Who starts doesn't close games. For this Mavericks team, especially even in Mavericks history, we've seen a title team with Jason Terry come off the bench, who is one of the best players on the team. So
Deshaun Stevenson come out of nowhere and start games in the final, right?
I just think it's the low hanging fruit that's it's easy to talk about, and it's a talking points and all of that. So I laughed with Jason Kidd's comment after the game of, "Hey, stop asking me about it. It's a waste of time. It's not that big of a deal. Basically,
it's a waste of time because he doesn't tell us the truth about stuff.
He lies so much.
I'm gonna keep on that because it's just so true, and I just want people to know that.
But yeah, starting Tim, I would not have started Tim. I would have started Josh Green, and they went obviously the second game in a row with Tim. And it worked out because he hit a couple shots early, and it felt like there were a few times that the offense was clunky tonight. Tough night for the Christian Wood Hive.
He's just gonna. Draymond took him completely out of this game, and then Kuminga also took him out when Draymond wasn't there. He just really struggles against guys like that. A defensive player of the year type guy that can just really take a center out of the game. But any type of big wing that a team could throw at him, he just really struggles in that, it seems.
Yeah,
this was not going to be his game, basically.
No, it was not his game. He was frustrated, and rightfully so. If I played like that, he was 2 of 12 from the field, missed all 5 threes, minus 16 in the game. A guy that's physical like Draymond is just going to take him out like that, and just could never find a thing. So going back to Tim, they really needed Tim to have a spark of offense tonight, and Tim giving him 22 points. He had some big buckets. He had a big bucket late. and he's feeling a little bit more confident. Jason Kidd talked about how Tim, coming out of a shooting slump. How do you get out of shooting slump? He's like, man, Tim has been in the off days, been in the gym. He's been dedicated and motivated and determined to get out of the shooting slump and trying anything and everything. And it feels like he's getting to that point, or at least tonight he was.
Yeah, he finally felt like he was a little bit back. 22 points, hit 5 threes. Felt like his shot was finally right. He's been kind of open with us about how he's been coming back. I asked him about, what's the hardest thing about coming back? And this was a couple weeks ago that I asked him this, and he said, I'm jumping too high on my jump shot, and so I'm just elevating too high. He jumps pretty high on his jumpers anyway, but he said it was getting too high. And then he said after this game, I really had to focus on releasing at the top of my shot, right? Like you jump and release at the top and not on the way back down. It felt like he was releasing on the way back down at times, and that was throwing off his rhythm. And so I don't know if he didn't say that starting helps him with his rhythm or not. I think McMahon asked him that question, and I don't think that it did, but he was definitely, they needed him to step up because, like you said, this wasn't going to be a Christian Wood game because of Draymond. Then the Spencer Dinwiddie thing later in the fourth quarter, we'll talk about, but Kemba wasn't going to be ready to play in this game. They brought up Jaden Hardy, but I don't think Kid's ready to play him. They needed scoring from somebody, and it had to be Tim Hardaway, I think, at this point for this game to be successful for the Mavs. So great on him. Hopefully this is a turning point for him. Do you have confidence in that?
I mean, yeah, let's see what they go to Detroit soon.
The thing about Tim, I've been thinking about Tim Hardaway. Yeah, that's true. They are going to Detroit on Thursday. He had a 40-point game, I think, last time he played there. But the thing with Tim, and I've been looking at this, that when I saw Tim was starting, I went back and I started looking at his box scores and stuff. Tim's streaky. Like, it's just the way he is as a player, right? He'll have a week of shooting like 60% from the floor and then a week of shooting like 30% from the floor. The thing is, to start this season, all the streaks have been just lowered, right? Like he has a good streak of shooting like 40% and then a streak of shooting like 20 or 0%, right? He just needs to take it that next step forward and get back into it. It just the way he normally plays is just lower right now.
And the tough thing with Tim is he doesn't do anything else outside of shooting. And it sounds really mean, but it's just like he's not very good at defense. He's not going to set up the offense. He's not like a creator playmaker.
Bad in transition.
He's not going to rebound. Like he just doesn't do a ton else outside of shooting, and shooting is a good trait. He'll win you games, right? Yeah. So I mean, and tonight he had 22, and that was really crucial for the Mavs. So, yeah, I thought them going with him. Let's see if that stays the same. Reggie obviously came off the bench tonight, played just 13 minutes, missed all 3 of his shots. I kind of just feel bad for him at this point because
he's just going through it.
He's going through it. He's got to just keep on fighting through it. It's weird because you think back to last year and like, man, Reggie sucked shooting the basketball until Christmas Day in January. And so it's like deja vu again. But
so this game was really interesting to me because what the Mavericks and the Warriors have been doing all season is the Mavericks are awesome at home and the Warriors are terrible on the road, and vice versa. Like it's the same for both teams. The thing about the Mavs and Warriors, though, is the difference between them is the Warriors starters have been incredible. Like one of the probably the best lineup in the NBA. The Splash Brothers with Looney, Draymond, and Wiggins, right? That one that we saw in the Western Conference Finals last year. That lineup has been amazing. Their bench has been awful. Like they just cannot get anything going with their bench. They had Kuminga and Moody and Wiseman all playing early in the season. And they were all playing, and they were all terrible, and then couldn't figure out how to make that work. And Steve Kerr's been making tons of adjustments and changes, and Anthony Lamb's getting minutes, and
I like that guy. I don't know much about him, but I like him.
They had like Ty Jerome getting minutes, like they've just been messing with all kinds of lineups. And then for the Mavericks, their starters have been bad. There's like the starting lineups have been not good, but their bench has been awesome. And it was a complete flip in this game where like the starters for the Warriors. Klay Thompson's a -21. Wiggins a -23. Curry and Looney are like a -15, -12. And then the bench for the Warriors were really good. Kuminga, DiVincenzo, +15, +21. Like it was the reverse for that. The Mavericks starters dominated the Warriors starters, and it was just a really weird flip of a game in this one. And Luka just carried him, man. Like Luka just carried him in so many different ways. And then, coming up, let's get into the fourth quarter because I think this is where the game was really won and where Josh Green really stepped up. And so let's talk about Josh Green, Spencer Dinwiddie getting ejected, and explain why. If you looked at the box score and you saw Josh Green's box score, 13 points, 2 rebounds, 1 steal, 1 assist, you'd be like, okay, cool. Like, why is everyone talking about Josh Green? I'm going to tell you why everyone's talking about Josh Green coming up. But before we do that, let me tell you about ExpressVPN. A lot of you, probably, the internet keyboard warriors, have used ExpressVPN. We all know how ExpressVPN protects your privacy and your security online, gets you secure internet connection. But the thing you may not know is you can also use ExpressVPN to unlock movies and shows that are only available in other countries. A lot of our European audience probably knows this, but if you're in the US, you may not know that there are different Netflixes across the world. There are different Disney Pluses where they have like different kinds of content. You can access that with ExpressVPN. You can binge The Office on Netflix in the UK because it's not on there now. You'd have to get Peacock. But if you don't want to get Peacock, you can just get the ExpressVPN. So if you want access to hundreds of new shows, go to expressvpn.com/lockedon right now. That's all. You can get an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. 3 months. That's expressvpn.com/lockedon. expressvpn.com/lockedon to learn more. All right, Isaac Harris, let's enter the fourth quarter. The Mavericks built up a lead. Let's go through. The Mavericks built up a lead in the first quarter with their starters, incredible 23-6, and then the second unit started to come on, and Bullock struggled, and Christian Wood struggled, and they really couldn't figure out their footing in the second unit. They gave up the lead. The Warriors took it in the end of the second quarter, and then in the third quarter, they were just going back and forth. I don't think any defense was played in that third quarter. They were just trading buckets. It felt like back and forth and back and forth. And then the refs kind of took over for a little bit. It felt like Curry was getting calls, that Luka wasn't getting calls, and it was just a weird thing back and forth. Then the fourth quarter. Start with no Luka on the floor. So the kid's been messing with that, where he usually just plays Luka first quarter, half of second quarter, third quarter, and then half of the fourth quarter. But recently he had been starting Luka to start the fourth quarter. Decided not to do that in this one. 1 minute and 8 seconds into the fourth quarter, Spencer Dinwiddie's driving against Jordan Poole, and then he just like bumps into him to try and create some contact, but his elbow comes up and clocks Jordan Poole right in the chin. And he goes down, he falls down, he's hurt. He's got a towel over his face. And then the refs go and review it, and they're sitting there, and Draymond's holding up 2 fingers. Did you see him? He's sitting there holding up 2 fingers, like straight over his head. You want this guy on the team so bad.
Draymond, tell me more about them reviewing a hit to the face to Jordan Poole. Please tell me more.
What he really meant was this is the second time that Jordan Poole has been hit in the face this season.
Twice.
And gotten clocked and fell down. So he's holding up the 2, and you can see Christian Wood and Spencer Dinwiddie on the other side, like talking to Draymond across the floor. And he's holding up the 2, and everybody's like sitting there. And then all of a sudden, I have my Sharks inspired binoculars out, and so I'm sitting there watching Spencer Dinwiddie, and all of a sudden I just see him untuck his jersey and just start laughing maniacally. I was like, oh God, they called it a flagrant. They called it a flagrant 2. He gets ejected. He leaves. Every single Warriors fan within eye shot of where I was sitting stood up and waved goodbye to him. Every single, honestly, it was like 40.
So they were all under 20.
I was gonna say it was like 40 or 50 of them stood up and waved goodbye. So he gets ejected. Luka has played a ton of minutes at this point. Like it's only 10 minutes and 52 seconds left in the game. So kid is not going to put Luka back out there. The Mavericks have no other ball handlers, and this is where this is where their problem is exacerbated. What is that? Is that the right one? I always use the wrong one.
You're asking me.
And so they decided to just put in
Bertans.
They put in Bertans, and then Josh Green was like the ball handler.
I'm sorry. I gotta push back on Jason Kidd on this one. I was dang frustrated. Spencer gets ejected, and you put on Davis with Josh Green and Christian Wood, and
you know what
Maxey,
they say?
And they said
people forget about Frank.
Put Frank in for a few minutes. Put Jaden Hardy in for all I care.
Party, let's go party.
Put Kemba Walker in his hoodie out there.
I know.
Like
he was giving such first day of school today.
Like I get it that you're not confident in Frank or even Jaden Hardy that you just pulled up from Frisco, But to ask Josh Green to be a point guard, like
against the Warriors.
Against the Warriors, but I'm like, oh my gosh, and then we couldn't even get the ball to the floor.
No.
It was just chaos. And it was like, what are we watching? We have and it's not like, just give us a few minutes to buy Luka some time. Frank could bring the ball up the floor.
People forget
just
about
do
Frank.
that. So I was so frustrated about it. I'm like, why are we all watching this right now? And I mean, it ended up being okay. But Josh Green was asked about it after the game, and he had he was laughing about it. He's like, dang, I can't remember the last time I played point guard. And I even thought something of a small that he said was, I can't remember the last time I've had like an on-ball, I'm paraphrasing
screen,
here. It's like an on-ball screen. It's like almost every screen I've had since I've been in the league has been off-ball. And to have an on-ball screen is like, it was so different for him. And it's like, this dude isn't even running on-ball screens, but we're asking him to point guard in practice. So I don't know if that's just an eye-opening that one player can get ejected, and that means you can't bring the ball to the floor. I don't know if that's just a eye-opening experience that there's something wrong with the roster.
I sure hope so, because this is what we've been saying is like, hey, you don't have that third guy. He doesn't trust Frank.
People forget about Frank.
He apparently doesn't trust Jaden Hardy. He apparently.
I'm going to throw that soundboard at you. I'm going to launch it at your face.
It's a win. We got to have fun with it. It just doesn't make any sense. Like that the kid is just so entrenched in like, okay, I'm only going to play these guys. And apparently Davis is now one of those guys where he can put back. So they only ran that lineup for like a minute, like a little over a minute. And then Luka came back in.
Because it made our eyeballs bleed.
Yeah, because the Warriors scored like seven quick points against that lineup too. Luka came back in. And the Mavs had a really great response. I thought that was a real big stretch that kind of like the Mavericks were down 96-100 when Luka came back in. So they're down by 4. And then I felt like the Mavericks really fought back. They scored 5 quick points. And it was just the defense. Luka got his triple-double then. It was the way that they responded. And sometimes it's not even about the stats. It's just about how the team looks. And it felt like they're really, all right, we're gonna really try. We're really going to come in here and try and win this game. And then the rest of that stretch, just going into like the 7-minute mark, it was the starters and then Christian Wood in for Dwight Powell. Luka was just literally doing everything. Like just everything. Like he had to bring the ball up. He wasn't getting good screens. There wasn't any actions run. It just felt like it was just Luka versus the Warriors team. And he ended up scoring enough buckets. They went back and forth. Then Jason Kidd switched the lineup again. I think every player played in the fourth quarter because eventually, with about 4.5 minutes left, he puts in Maxey and Green for Dwight and Christian Wood.
JaVale did not.
Yeah, every player that had played.
Yeah, the closing lineup was Luka, Josh Green, Tim, Dorian, and Maxey.
Yeah,
and yeah, I think there's some stuff with that works. And to go back to Josh Green, man, like what?
Aussie.
I'm buying more stock into Josh Green.
Ooh!
Aussie.
I still don't know what he is because I'm buying stock in the entertaining factor of he's just fun. I'm like, I just find myself like, oh, slow down. No, just don't jump up in the air. The 360 pass, like what happened? Like what is going on?
That was incredible. So he's like kind of he's in the corner. He gets the ball in the corner. There's a closeout on him real quick. And so a defender's coming right at you. And so instead of like taking a contested 3-point shot, you drive the ball. So he's driving and then he meets 2 defenders under the rim and spins away from one defender, kind of into another defender, and then chucks the ball. I think he did an overhead like baseball pass, or like soccer throw-in pass, like over. It's called soccer, by the way. Over the head, over to Davis Bertans.
It's football,
and gets there. It's called soccer.
Even.
And
no, it's not. I hate
Christian
that
Pulisic
campaign.
proved today that it is called soccer. And he chucks the ball over to Davis. And then after the game, he was like, I was just praying and hoping that ball made it over to Davis because I would have never played again if that pass didn't go. That was so funny.
And I said to you after, I'm like, no, you would not have played again if he didn't. That driving layup late in the game, I want to say it was under a minute to go.
Minute 23 left. Josh Green drive and lay. Like Luka didn't touch the ball that possession. Josh Green got it on the other end, carried the ball up, and then drove and got like this like weird Josh Green layup where it's just like he takes contact, weird awkward layup, but he puts it in. and that put the Mavs up 113 to 110. Like that play right there.
They were up by 1, and this dude just drove the paint with some awkward, not even giving Luka the ball, and score. And it wasn't even the end of a shot clock. And I'm like, oh my gosh! But it went in. And I'm like, all right.
Josh Green is he's already exceeded what I had hoped for him. I just hoped that he would be a solid contributor, that he would make a couple more threes, play some solid defense, still get the one Josh Green offensive rebound that he gets, still get, a couple of steals here and there. But he stepped up, and the Mavericks have this vacuum of a guy that can handle the ball and do some stuff. And he's like an agent of chaos where he can just come in, he'll grab that rebound, he'll get extra possessions. The thing that really stood out was, was in the fourth quarter, or was it in the third quarter, where Josh Green dove for a ball and he's out of bounds, but he's right in front of the Mavs bench. He dives for a loose ball and he catches the ball, but he goes out of bounds right in front of the Mavs bench. And Tim Hardaway after the game said, that really woke us up. That was a play that really had us, okay, we're back in. It's those hustle plays. And you know what? He's like the only player on the Mavericks that has those type of plays where he lays out, or he can, is quick enough to even get to those things. And a lot of it's speed, but he's one of the players that can do things like that. He just has a nose for the ball. We've talked recently about his Aussie rules football that he played in the past, where that's where he said he learned his nose for the ball type thing, where he can just get to it. And they need more of that. Like, they need more of Josh Green and what he brings. And he's making threes. He hit 3 threes in this game.
Yeah, man, he's playing so good. I'm down for him to start at some point.
Start him right now.
It feels like they'll probably stick with Tim. But I would be open to the Josh Green over Reggie Bullock. Like, I'm more willing. I'm more open to having the conversation about Josh Green starting than Christian Wood. And I like some of the lineup stuff with Josh Green out there. But starting means a lot. So free throw attempts also for this game, or free throws in general, Mavs struggled a lot. And I thought that was going to be the death of them. They missed 10 free throws in this game.
Luka missed 6 of those.
Yeah. It's just, those just come back to bite you, man. Like, you missed 10 in a game. That was going to be one of the reasons they lost if they did.
For sure. We haven't even talked about the end of this game, where there was travels called this whole game. Poole got called for 2. Luka got called for an early one. And then Luka gets called for a travel on one end. The other end, Curry gets called for a travel. And that was the play that just kind of sealed it. Now, he did travel. He established his pivot foot, and then he kind of picks it up, shuffles a little bit. And Curry said after the game, he's like, I didn't think it was a travel, but, I did try to go for the hero ball instead of go for the layup and drive the lane there. But that was the play at the end, man. It just made this game even more wild than it was. When they called that, I was like looking around at the media people and the scouts around me, and I was like, I cannot believe they just called that. And everyone else was making the same face as me.
Well, it was like the cherry on top, because they caught 1 million travels in this game.
Honestly, like 7.
Yeah, is this like Little League basketball? What am I watching? I feel like they're just like trying to prove a point of, hey, everyone is walking.
Yeah.
They even called traveling on Jordan Poole. I didn't know that was allowed.
Twice.
Jordan Poole has been traveling his whole career.
Just from pool to pool to pool to pool.
And then the Clay 3 that he missed, I thought it was going in, because it's freaking Klay Thompson. And
Kid brought up that was just like that play in the Utah series where, what was it? Bogdanovich got that wide open 3 off of almost the same play, he said, which looked exactly like it. But
as soon as it happened, it was funny, because Bobby leaned over to me and said, that looked like the Utah Bojan play. I'm like, oh, dang. Kid talked about it after the game.
But yeah, they got some big moments. Josh Green hit a 3 with 4 minutes left. Luka the steal in the 3 with 3 minutes left. Tim Hardaway hit a 3 with 1:50 left. Josh Green the drive that we mentioned earlier at 1:20. Luka had the turnaround Dirk fade with a minute left, and they just got some big buckets late, and they just need these guys to step up every once in a while, and they were able to in this game. It was a great win. It
was, they lost 4 games in a row to bounce back to win this game. We know the road struggle for Golden State this year, but still, this is a team that you battled in the Western Conference Finals, and this was a team that won the title, and they still have Steph and those guys. Like, to break your streak against this team, hopefully it gives you some momentum going into Detroit. You're playing a younger team without Cade and stuff. Hopefully you can, win that game, and then you head to New York for a crazy early tip on Saturday that we get some World Cup soccer that morning, and then we get
You called it soccer.
Oh yeah, I call it soccer, but I think the correct term is football.
No, it's called soccer.
And then we get, Mavericks Knicks basketball around noon Central Time.
Oh, I'm ready for it. There you go. Guys, let us know in the comment section below what's one reason the Mavericks won this game. And thanks for making us your first listen. Make your second listen. Locked On Sports Today, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reaction, big game recaps, and the take of the day available on Odyssey, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom!